essentially where the bodies are gonna lay. That didn't come out right. What's happening? This is Jason. If you haven't been to this channel before, welcome. If you have, maybe you've seen my previous 2 bed builds, kind of the building blocks of trial and error and improvement. The first bed was just structurally way overgrown. The second bed was able to sleep one with some storage and raised storage and things like that, able to have an RV cooler. And then this third one, I wanted to be able to sleep 2 people side by side with a drawer in the back to kind of secure my belongings, put my backpack and my technology in. And then part of that sleeping is to get this RV cooler up and out of the way. I have type 1 diabetes. I have to keep my insulin cold along with other things that I'm traveling with, food and whatnot. So keeping an ice cooler didn't make any sense anymore. So upgraded to this RV cooler, but I needed to get it out of the way. So I want to show you today how I built this, why I built it certain ways. First and foremost, to let you know this is a work in progress. I want you to take whatever I did here and improve upon it in your own situation. This is a 2015 JKU. So I know there's probably 6 or 7 years where the dimensions and the measures of these vehicles stays the same. So once again, take your vehicle, do some of these measures and use this as a starting point. So a couple of measures. This is over 72 inches deep for the sleeping platform. So over 6 feet of sleeping space. This is about 40 inches wide at the back, 52 inches wide at the front. And this vertical space here, 14 inches, 16 inches. This is about 18 or 19 inches. So plenty of room for 2 people to sleep in the back of a Jeep. I mean, this isn't an RV. This is about functionality, ease, quickness, and being able to boondock out west, really. So I can actually start at the beginning because just had my Jeep detailed. I'm thinking about upgrading, so wanted to get it all cleaned up, which meant I had to take this bed out, show you from start to finish all the modular parts and how to build this and put it back in. So here we go. All right, so first let's talk about the why. I've built 2 beds to this point and they've gone from the most heavy, laborious build ever to kind of a middle of the road. And the whole goal with this one was to really minimize the amount of materials involved for weight purposes, but also just to give me more room inside that isn't taken up by wasted space and materials for the bed. Let's start with the parts to this. This is the spine. I'll call it the spine. Pretty simple. These are 1x4s, some 2x4s, and this was a 2x8. Just took some simple measures on the inside to see, with this height and going all the way back, where this was gonna sit on the Jeep frame so that it actually has some support. The other thing I wanted to keep in mind was a lack of mechanical fasteners. So I wanted to use as few screws as possible and make this really quick and easy to pull in and out of the Jeep if I wanted to. So once these pieces all go in, I add 1 screw to kind of hold it all together. And other than that, it's really easy to get in and out. So that was one of the big goals for me. So let's see where this goes. All right, so nothing super crazy here. This just sits on this higher area. So 2 inches of that or so sits on it. Once everything else comes in here and kind of locks together, these 2x4s are sitting in the lower part of these seat bays. And we have the full weight being put on this middle part of the spine. All right, so now for the heaviest part of this build, probably the hardest part for me to put in by myself, but obviously totally doable. This is the enclosure for the drawer. The drawer is a 6-inch deep drawer, technically. So this has 2x8 lower supports. The drawer is essentially 6 inches deep, and then you lose a little bit of space to having some clearance on the top and on the bottom. But this is made of birch plywood, so I always use birch plywood for the load-bearing spots on these builds. So essentially where the bodies are gonna lay. That didn't come out right. But the structure here is pretty simple. We have our 2x8s. We have some 1x4s that are giving a little bit more surface for this top to sit on. 32-inch heavy-duty drawer slides This drawer slides out all the way. You can add tons of weight to it. We have our pop-up shelf, which we'll take a look at later. And on the back, we have some 1x4s. Again, these are just kind of to bridge the gap between what I will call the wings and the other part of the bed platform. So these kind of tie everything together. It's a little bit tricky to get in, but here we go. All right, so one of the things about this is there is a notch out here for the part of the tailgate door that kind of nudges in about 3.5 inches. So that sets the drawer back a little bit. Not a big deal at all. I did take the cover off of the trunk for this so that if I do need to get something in here, all I do is pop the drawer out. And that's where I have winch straps and other assorted tools and things like that. This is all just friction fit into the vehicle. There's 2 bolts up front that I created some notch outs for. So this sits right inside those bolts and doesn't move around. And then this spine just goes right through the middle where I've created kind of a runway for it. And this is the one screw that we'll attach later to hold this whole thing together. A little note about the structure. I did think about putting maybe a little 2x4 support right here that I could just kind of lock in whenever I'm traveling or there's weight on this thing. By using the birch plywood, I really haven't seen a need for that. There's no bowing, no sagging, no anything, and I've had this set up for quite a long time now. And this isn't where a lot of your weight's going anyways, other than the cooler and what's going on top of that. Most of the weight is going up front on the more supported areas of this. All right, so the next part is the drawer, made up of 3/8 inch plywood bottom, 1x6 pine. As you probably know, these aren't 1x6, they end up being 1x5 because they're not rough hewn, they're finished. So the total depth of this is really 5 inches, but with some of the space at the top, I get about 6 inches. The whole reason I designed this to this depth and everything to the depth is because of my backpack. That might sound weird, but it's for my computer backpack. I know how deep my computer backpack is whenever I have my computer and my iPad and the other tech in it. And I needed that to be the easiest thing for me to throw in the back of here, lock it up, and feel some sort of security. And everything else is just kind of built around that. That allowed me to store what I want to store, but also have the maximum amount of height on the inside to where I could actually sit up on my butt and not have my head hit the ceiling whenever this thing is all put together. Again, 32-inch heavy-duty drawer slides. One more thing I wanted to give you is the actual dimensions of this box. So this is 34-inch outside edge to outside edge and front to back 32 inches. Lots of storage space there. That's that. Hardest part's getting it on the tracks and getting it popped in. But as you can see, there is a little bit of room here at the top, so I have more than 6 inches of space right here, kind of if you get the spine out of the way. Super easy. All right, so next up is the front part of the bed. This is the part that I kind of refer to as the wings. And these are made up of kind of some contour panels that go around the wheel wells and edges, and then a couple of hinges. And once again, this is made out of that 3/4 inch birch plywood. Again, we just have these piano hinges. And as you'll see once we install this, this was a really important part to maximize the total sleeping space on the bed. Back on my first bed builds, the front part of the bed, I didn't really have any structural part of that platform, so it was like throw your backpacks in there and throw things like that in there and then build that up to the space where your pillow might be sitting on that. So on this one, I really wanted to create a firm structure for where the head and the pillow goes, especially since we're trying to sleep 2 people in there and have a pop-up cooler. So the width on this is 52 inches total. And depth of this middle panel is 23 inches. Total depth here is almost 37 inches. And then this kind of contours out to where we can get at the drink cubbies and some of those things underneath. Then we just have these simple supports. As you can see, I use little dowels. This is just a 2x4. Simply sits on the floor of the Jeep, and there is a little dowel hole here. And we have our dowel. This just flips up, sets on there, friction fit, weight on top of it's gonna do what it needs to do. And then these store super easy underneath the seats. The other thing I like about this design is that it's really easy to get in and out and store, because these just fold up into one piece, fairly easy. Don't sit flat 100% because of those hinges, but again, these are gonna be in the Jeep most of the time or stored pretty simply. So getting it in and out is actually pretty easy. One of the really nice happy accidents that happened with this is these wings, whenever they're not flipped forward, they actually serve as kickstands whenever I open up the sides and need to get in here and access things. So that just kind of worked out really nicely. Notice here, I'm not sure if you can see that from there, but there's a little chamfered edge here, because if you don't do that, this is gonna pop up and be awkward every time you raise these things in and out. And then once again, we get back to our dowel rods here. Just have a little dowel sticking out 1/4 of an inch, acceptor hole here, and this goes back to our whole plan of friction fitting this thing together. And that just drops in, same thing on the other side. Nothing here up front holding it in place, but our little crossbar of the spine gives about 2 inches up front, 2 inches in the back. So this has a whole structure around the entire thing to bear that weight. And then we don't have any structure right here, so can fit some crates and things like that in here, so pull them in, pull them out really easily. Usually my battery backups go here, so I have a Yeti that's linked up to 2 marine batteries, and that sits right here. It gets powered by the engine up front. And we just have, once again, our dowels, 2x4s. Find the spot for that, figure out where the hole is, and pops right in. And now we have plenty of load bearing for a head and a pillow. And now the total length of this, front to back, is more than 6 feet. So 72 inches, plenty of room for an average size guy like me, 5'10". And most people, obviously, if you're over that, you might need to snuggle up a little bit. And once again, whenever these are down, we have a little bit of room to reach down here and grab some things in the drink cubbies or whatever might be needed there. So the whole point of this build was not only to maximize sleeping space and have a fairly secure drawer, but probably the biggest thing that had to work around here was, how do I use an RV cooler and get it out of the way to sleep those 2 people fairly comfortably? So this thing is roughly 14 inches by 24 inches by 18 inches tall, and it needs to stay plugged in. So essentially I measured what my structure was going to look like, how tall this was going to be, and then how much space I could have if I put this all the way up into the ceiling. The assumption being, if I'm sleeping back here, I don't need to access the cooler anymore. So with all those measures in mind, I was able to create a hinged platform that allows that to pop all the way up into the ceiling. I have a structural support that I put across this that's only there whenever this is up. It's not going to be up whenever we're driving. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. It just needs to kind of support this to where it doesn't fall while we're sleeping. Got the support up. Just a simple 2x4 with a couple of like 4-inch or so uprights on the left and the right side. 2x8, 2x4. These are just little 3-inch door hinges. So there's a 3-inch door hinge here, reversed 3-inch door hinge here, 2 of them and 2 of them, and that's it. Then there's a little kickstand 2x4 right here for whenever it sits down so that this thing sits level. Birch plywood, and that's about it. But the width here, 17 inches, 19 inches, and then we have 14 inches underneath. So plenty of room for people to comfortably be in there, flip around, and be fairly comfortable side by side. Throw the keys, throw an extra bag, throw your clothes up here, and in the morning, whenever you're done, put that up, drop that down, don't pinch your hands, throw a bungee cord over this, and we're off. From the back like this, because doing it from the inside is pretty heavy and laborious, pop this support in, go to bed. All right, so there you go. Is it tight? Absolutely. It's the back of a Jeep Wrangler 4-door. But we have all this storage space underneath. We have a fairly secure drawer in the back. We have an RV cooler, and we have room to sleep 2 people. And we also have about 34, 33 inches of height from the top of this platform to the ceiling, to where you can actually sit up in here if you need to. But you're really not going to be doing that very often, because this is meant to sleep. This is, you know, get to your destination, have fun outside, and sleep in here comfortably. So I hope you got some ideas out of this. Make it better. Let me know on social media what you did and what kind of nuances you improved. And good luck. Have fun. Peace.